Hey, guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto trained seriously, after the Sasuke retrieval arc. After Naruto and Sasuke's fight at the Valley of the End, Naruto has an epiphany, and everything he thought about changes. Now during his training trip with Jiraya, the blonde trains like crazy, returning to the village, 2.5 years later, as a new shinobi. One who vows to protect the village even if it costs his life. However, those who knew his usual nature wished he didn't change. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, it means a lot to me, and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. Now let's start the story. Chapter 4 Rasengan Training. It had been 2 weeks since that day Naruto was introduced to the restriction seals and his physical skills greatly improved. He and Jiraiya was found heading towards river country in hopes of training below a waterfall. Jiraiya instructed Naruto that learning how to meditate can increase the ninja's perception of things both outside and inside his body. For instance, by meditating, Naruto could have more access to his chakra and learn how to ease his chakra flow inside his chakra coils. Back to Naruto's physical skills, he was able to gain some muscles from constantly using them to be able to move. Naruto learned by pure experience how the restriction seal worked. As Naruto walked, the air would reach the seal and it would increase the air force around the blonde's body, thus making it harder to move his limbs. At the time, Naruto compared it like trying to move in the water, which Jiraiya couldn't agree more to. The restriction seal was created by the Yondaime Hokage in response to the gravity seal that was called a Kinjutsu because of the damage it did to the human body. This new one acted more directly towards a ninja's training and, unlike the gravity seal, it didn't overstrain the muscles and organs. Some minutes later, the two of them saw the many number of waterfalls that made river country famous. Naruto, there are a lot of inns here in river country, so we'll just settle in and proceed with what I intended for you, said Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto, who in turn, extended his hand, before focusing chakra on rotation. The energy began to gather around his hand, but dissipated seconds afterwards. Even if the Rasengan training was only due to happen the next year, Naruto decided to give it a shot while on their travels around the elemental nations. Jiraiya saw it and smiled at the blonde's better attempt this time. Since he began to try the Rasengan single-handedly, Naruto has improved a lot. The first time, he couldn't even begin the energy rotation. Now, that part was already through, and now Naruto needed to maintain the rotation steady, before beginning to focus on the power. In time, you'll manage the Rasengan, Naruto. Now, we'll settle inside an inn and head straight for the nearest waterfall, said Jiraiya as Naruto nodded before both settled inside for a while. This place would serve as training place for both Taijutsu and increasing Naruto's chakra control, seeing as they would both practice Taijutsu on top of the lake. Arrow-sensei, do you have any non-elemental jutsus that you could teach me? Asked Naruto, which make Jiraiya think for a while. There is one defensive jutsu I invented, but I'm afraid you won't be able to do this one. The technique is called Ninpu Hari Jizu, ninja art, underworld guardian spikes, and is a defensive jutsu and consists of focusing chakra through your hair and to sharp its edges before covering your whole body with it. In a taijutsu match, once you do this, if the opponent is stupid enough to hit you, will be stabbed because of the hair spikes. However, I'm able to do this because my hair is long enough, while yours is not, explained Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto, who then proceeded to find a way out of this predicament. If I were to focus more chakra than the technique normally requires, then maybe I wouldn't need to grow my hair. What are the hand signals needed for it? Asked Naruto, to which Jiraiya smiled and showed him the technique, or at least which hand seals were needed. When Naruto attempted, his hair immediately became more sharpened, but instead of covering the whole body, Naruto's hair only managed to cover his head and his chest before dissipating the technique. Jiraiya was impressed nonetheless. On his first attempt, the blonde already managed to sharpen the hair enough to create needles, and with enough practice and more chakra, Naruto would be able to do the technique without having the need to grow his hair. This technique, though, had a slight outcome of growing the hair at an accelerated pace. Upon voicing it to Naruto, just shrugged it off, saying that he would worry about it later on. After a while, the two settled inside the inn and then went to the nearest waterfall. Once there, both immediately jumped and began battling each other in mid-air, before landing on the water. Practicing taijutsu on the water was good for two reasons. First of all, it would be a great help to increase chakra control because Naruto would have to focus on maintaining the chakra flow below his feet while fighting against Jiraiya, and the second reason is Taijutsu experience. After watching each other for a while, Naruto channeled chakra to his legs and charged Jiraiya with a roundhouse kick, to which Jiraiya used his arms to block it and then aimed a straight punch to Naruto's chest. Seeing the move, Naruto flipped his body while in midair and grabbed Jiraiya's arm before pushing it away from the direction of this chest. After landing once again on the water, Naruto charged once more, this time with a series of punches. As Jiraiya was blocking them, he smiled, seeing that not only his speed between movements increased but also the fact that Naruto was landing some heavy blows. In enough time, the pervert wouldn't need to worry about holding back in a straight taijutsu fight, and that was saying something. Jiraiya flipped his body for a reverse kick straight to Naruto's face, but the blonde did a back flip and evaded the attack before aiming for a low kick straight to Jiraiya's legs. Jumping, Jiraiya thought to test the Gaki's evasive techniques by making some hand seals for Kaden Hausenka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Mythical Fire Phoenix Jutsu. Instantly, Jiraiya expelled consecutive 2 feet fireballs at Naruto, who in turn cursed his sensei for using ninjutsu before focusing chakra in his feet and started running. The fireballs were hitting the water inches from Naruto's position, so the pace would have to be increased. Managing to steadily dodge the incoming fireballs, Naruto had to think of something to turn the odds. Looking at Jiraiya, he managed to see a log that was floating behind him, giving him the perfect tactic to get Jiraiya. Upon seeing the last fireball, he ran straight to it, not bothering to hear Jiraiya's protest of stupidity. The fireball engulfed him completely, until Naruto was suddenly replaced by a log. The pervert was dead silent and wondering what was going on until he turned around only to see Naruto's foot landing a straight kick on his face, thus sending him down. Looking at the blonde, Jiraiya couldn't help but applaud the blonde for the deceiving tactic. Even in the middle of a tight situation, the blonde had managed to calm down and think of a way through it. Congrats Naruto, although don't ever do such a crazy maneuver like that, unless you're absolutely sure you'll be able to complete it. Remember, I've seen ninjas dying because they attempted something new in the midst of battle. Remember always to use the skills you're most experienced with and you'll have a higher chance of winning the battle. Now, proceed with some taijutsu against your clones and then we'll begin our meditation exercise. Explained Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto before he summoned 4 clones and began to practice some fighting. This time, Jiraiya was already at the shore of the river, just watching the blonde as he fought with a grace particular to a chunin against his clones. Since they began the training 2 weeks ago, Naruto trained non-stop to acquire this form of taijutsu. Upon looking at his arms, Jiraiya began to feel the pain of Naruto's punches as his arms were a little numb. That glove of his is really magnificent. Not only does he more damage with his punches, but they are also enabling the user to focus some chakra in it, thus powering up the blows. Imagine when he learns how to use Fudan chakra and channel it through his gloves. He could invent a new taijutsu style called Wind Fist or Hurricane Fist. Shippuken Hurricane Fist has a nice ring to it. Maybe I can talk to him about it when we begin Fudan training. Thought Jiraiya. The pervert was having a weird sensation. He remembered being this insightful over someone else's training only when he trained the Yondaime Hokage. At the time, Minato's growth was so astounding that Jiraiya was beginning to think of ways to improve even further. Now, with Naruto it was the same, and Jiraiya couldn't help but connect the similarities between father and son as he saw Naruto battling against the Kage Bunshins. Suddenly, the teacher part resurfaced as he saw Naruto committing a minor flaw. Naruto, keep your arms up and don't let yourself open while attacking. You'd be vulnerable to the enemy otherwise, shouted Jiraiya before hearing a scream in agreement from the blonde and positioned his arms better in order to not let his guard open. Now feeling content with Naruto's form, Jiraiya just stood to watch as Naruto jumped real high and threw one shuriken against the clones before beginning a fast series of hand seals for Ninpu Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu Ninja Art, Shuriken Shadow Clone. Immediately, the lonely shuriken was suddenly quadrupled and pierced through all the remaining clones, thus dispelling them all at once before the real one landed on top of the water while holding his head from a sudden headache. This happened every time he battled against clones. Every time when a clone is dispelled, Naruto immediately received images on his mind as if the clone's memory was actually his. He couldn't understand why this thing happens. Jiraya, for his part, smiled acknowledging the blonde's discovery as he walked casually towards the wondering blonde. It seems you discovered the secret behind the cage bunshin, said Jiraya as he stopped in front of the blonde, who in turn looked at him startled. What secret? What are you talking about, Ero-sensei? Asked Naruto while massaging his temples a bit in order to ease the pain. After a cage bunshin is dispelled, everything he saw, heard or read is sent straight to the real one. This technique is originally intended to be used for infiltration purposes alone. By sending a cage bunshin inside a castle, for example, the clone could see where the traps and guards are before dispelling and sending the information to the real one. I bet that after you dispelled the clones, you received images from the clone's point of view, am I right? Asked Jiraiya before seeing Naruto nod, and Jiraiya continued. This is a good bonus for you, Naruto. Because of your chakra capacity, we could use the clone's abilities to decrease the time needed for us to train something, like for instance, the Rasengan and the Hari Jizu technique, explained Jiraiya, waiting for the information to sink in before he saw Naruto's smile almost reaching the boy's ears. Deciding to contain the boy's enthusiasm, Jiraiya asked the blonde if he wanted some lunch, to which Naruto eagerly accepted as he was hungry as hell, earning laughter from Jiraiya, and together they turned back to the inn in search for some food. On the way back, Naruto summoned 2 cage bunshins and all 3 of them attempted the second part of the Rasengan. Upon seeing this, Jiraiya smiled upon seeing that the blonde already grasped the meaning behind the cage bunshin training. Inside the restaurant once back at the inn, the two went to the place's restaurant that happened to be a sushi restaurant. Hearing this, the blonde asked if there was any ramen before being slapped on the head by Jiraiya, who instructed Naruto to eat more healthy food in order to grow stronger and be better prepared to defend the village. Upon hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but nod and decided to try this sushi. As they sat at the table and placed their orders, Jiraiya began asking Naruto about his training so far. Naruto was enthusiastic, that's for sure. He began to speak about how useful the restriction seals were and how it helped him to grow stronger and faster. Ero-sensei, do you have any seals that could provide an aid in battle? I've never seen you using any, and I was wondering if fuinjutsu could be used in battle, asked Naruto, to which Jiraiya nodded. Fuinjutsu requires a lot of precision and chakra control, and using it in battle is not advisable. For one, any Fuin technique requires some level of concentration, and the enemy won't necessarily wait for you to finish the move. The last shinobi who used sealing techniques in battle was the Yondaime with his Hiraishin. Other than that, those seals are used mostly as exploding tags. However, the Tem Orochimaru managed to invent something, although it isn't necessarily useful, said Jiraiya, before Naruto asked what it was, to which Jiraiya continued. It's called Kuchio's Raiko Kenka, summoning lightning blade creation, and it consists of 2 seals located on the user's wrists in order to summon any time of projectiles you want to. The seal itself is easy to make, if you want I can do it for you. Afterwards, in order to activate it, you just have to tap 2 fingers at the seal and focus some chakra to it. The projectile of choice will appear immediately. Do you want this skill, Naruto? Asked Jiraiya, earning a prompt nod from the blonde. With this technique, I wouldn't have to worry about carrying shurikens or kunai, plus I won't have to reach my holster for it, making more space for other survival equipments, said Naruto, earning a nod from Jiraiya, who in turn asked the blonde to extend his arms with his hand palms facing the ceiling. The seal engraving will hurt, so hang in there, said Jiraiya as his finger suddenly glowed with chakra before he began to inscribe the needed seal on Naruto's wrist. Jiraiya was right when he said the procedure would be painful. Naruto was gritting his teeth in agony while he was feeling the wrist burning while in contact with Jiraiya's glowing finger. After a while, the right hand wrist was done, leaving only the left one. Jiraiya explained that for the procedure to be complete, both wrists had to be done at the same time. Naruto nodded, saying that he was now more accustomed to the pain, to which Jiraiya nodded and proceeded to do the next hand. They're all done, Naruto, we'll place a ribbon around it to help ease the pain and then we can take it off. I, however, advise you not to take the bandage off if surprise is what you're aiming for. We could use a ribbon that covers the entire forearm and no one will see the seal until it's too late. Also, we could initiate from your hand as well, seeing as these gloves of yours hurt a little bit to use, no? Said Jiraiya as he took off Naruto's gloves and began the job. In minutes, Jiraya managed to cover the seal as well as Naruto's hand, before the meal arrived. Naruto could only stare at the food in front of him as he wondered if it is any good compared to ramen. He looked at what appeared to be rice with salmon on top of it and grabbed one. After eating it, he was feeling kind of strange, seeing that the food didn't exactly require much chewing. However, when Naruto swallowed, he actually liked the new food. Looking at his plate, he took the next one and this time dipped with a black sauce that followed the dish. The result was even better and Naruto ate the whole plate the same way he ate ramen. "I'll take it you like sushi, Naruto," said Jiraiya as he smiled at Naruto's face when enjoying a meal. "Liking it is an understatement, Ero-sensei, it's delicious. It's nothing compared to ramen, but at least now I found other food to eat besides the noodles," said Naruto before he called the waiter and asked for more sushi, earning a smile from Jiraiya. In Konoha's hospital inside the village's hospital, Tsunade and Shizune were visiting a kunoichi member of the Anbu forces as she was interned from heavy bruises and severe chakra exhaustion. The person was from Anbu, so any data regarding the kunoichi was restricted to Anbu personnel and the Hokage herself. Tsunade was reviewing the treatment on the patient's history board and wasn't pleased at all. This was the second time the woman had to come to the hospital with the same level of bruises and chakra exhaustion, and quite frankly, Tsunade was concerned with her health. She spoke with the Anbu commander and he reported the kind of missions that Anbu member Kat made, and it unnerved the Hokage since she knew it was the very person who was being treated that requested being sent to S-ranked missions, aka certain death. Shizune was also concerned for her once colleague at the academy, and she feared that the death of her friend's lover may have caused this desire to do missions non-stop. Unfortunately, there have been cases of solitary ninjas who choose to go to suicide missions in hopes of forgetting their inner pain. She remembered when one Hitaki Kakashi did this while in Anbu Black Ops, just after his last friend Rin was assassinated by the enemy. "What are you thinking, Shizune?" asked Tsunade as she flipped the page from the history board. "I don't know, she keeps doing this, Tsunade-sama. I don't know how she is feeling right now, but she can't just keep going to these suicide missions, she will end up killed," stated Shizune, earning a sigh in dismay from Tsunade, who was thinking between these lines as well. "I know, Shizune, but I can't do anything to stop her from doing so. According to the Anbu commander, she is the one requesting to do these so-called suicide missions. I can't simply overrule her will on this. I wish I could, but I can't. We can only hope that she manages to overcome whatever it is she's feeling right now and stop this nonsense. I'm sure someone already tried to talk to her, but she didn't listen. Come on, Shizune, we'll leave her rest for the time being. This mission took a lot out of her and I'm afraid she'll be here for quite a while to recover," said Tsunade, to which Shizune nodded and followed the blonde Hokage out of the room, thus leaving the purple-haired Anbu alone to rest. With Naruto after lunch, Naruto and Jiraiya returned to the waterfall, but this time not to train taijutsu. This time, Jiraiya would be introducing the so-called meditation technique he spoke a while ago. "Naruto, we'll do that exercise I talked about early, and for that I'll call some company," said Jiraiya as he bit his thumb and proceeded with the hand seals needed for the kuchiyos. Suddenly, two toads appeared with the exact same appearance. The only difference was that one was the size of a horse and the other the size of a pony. "Naruto, meet Gamini and his son Gaminikibi. They will aid us with this exercise," said Jiraiya before the two toads jumped on the water and swam towards the waterfall. Turning to Naruto, Jiraiya turned to explain the exercise. This exercise consists of controlling the flow of chakra inside your inner coils. By focusing on a single hand seal, you'll close your eyes and imagine yourself controlling the chakra through the chakra pathways. By doing this, you'll learn to be more controlled in tough situations and manage to think clearly despite being interrupted by the enemy. Now strip to your boxers and let's join them under the waterfall, explained Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded and took off his clothes before jumping on the water and waited for the little toad to swim under him and lift him a little bit. In minutes, they began to receive the brutal punishment of gravity as the 60-foot waterfall came crushing on their shoulders. Jiraiya immediately made the simple's hand seal and began to control his chakra inside him, thus ignoring all sense of pain from the water falling on his shoulders. The toads were as well not bothered by the water. However, Naruto was finding it difficult to concentrate while receiving tons and tons of water on his shoulders. Seeing this, Jiraiya instructed Naruto as to the key of getting this exercise, that was to focus 100% on the chakra traveling inside him and worry not about pain on the outside. Closing his eyes once more, Naruto made the hand seal and tried to focus on his inner chakra. It took a while, but then he managed to let loose of the pain from the water and straightened his posture. This exercise served as means to get to know your chakra better, in means of knowing just how much is needed for everything. Also, as Naruto learned how to do it, all of his senses of the outside world simply vanished, thus entering in a sort of trance. The toads looked at him and were surprised to see the blonde already being able to meditate before returning to their trance as well. Back to Naruto, he reached a state of self-awareness so great, that his mind began to race through all the events of his life so far. Naruto often wondered what he could have done differently, so he was imagining all these situations and placed different scenarios, like he using the techniques he knew now against Haku and Zabuza, or even against Neji at the Chunin exams. Also the fight against the Kagaya, and also the one against Sasuke at the Valley of the End. Naruto was doing just like the pervert instructed. His chakra was traveling through his body. However, when his chakra reached Kyuubi's cage, it woke the fox, who in turn opened his eyes to see that in front of him, Naruto's chakra was filling the entire room. Very interesting, the brat is focusing on manipulating his chakra inside his body, and he happened to focus as much of it here near my cage. Nevertheless, I can see that his chakra capacity increased ever since he left with the pervert to train. I guess now the imbecile will learn to fight and not embarrass me again, said Kyuubi as he closed his eyes once more and returned to sleep. A couple of hours passed and Naruto was still feeling his chakra when, suddenly, Jiraiya landed a hand on his shoulders, making Naruto open his eyes. When he opened them, he realized that the sun was just about to settle down, and then he looked to a smiling Jiraiya. You managed to complete the exercise, Naruto. Why don't we head back to the inn and get some sleep? Tomorrow, we'll begin your Rasengan training, and I kind of hope that you can complete it by tomorrow, despite it not being your goal for this year, said Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto, before they went to the shore and grabbed their clothes. On the way to the inn, Naruto and Jiraiya discussed about Naruto's attempt on meditation. Ero-sensei, I wanted to talk to you about the fox, asked Naruto, earning a look in surprise from Jiraiya because of the subject. When my chakra reached the fox's cage, the usual tension inside that place was suddenly diminished greatly. Do you know why? Asked Naruto, to which Jiraiya turned to think for a while. Naruto, the seal placed on the Kyuubi's cage acts according to your chakra. It's possible that since you overflowed the room with chakra, that the seal acted strongly against the fox, thus controlling its urges. If this is true, then your chakra capacity must have increased the last couple days. While we're here, you'll be doing this exercise more times. Today you managed to reach the state of trance, thus being able to look inside your own body, but meditation has also the purpose of self-awareness, and that's where I want you to be at the end of our stay here in River Country, okay, explained Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded. A couple hours later, both were at their room snoring like crazy from chakra overusage. The next day, Jiraiya and Naruto stood at a clearing in order to complete the one-handed Rasengan. Naruto, the first phase of the Rasengan you already know how to do, let's attain to the second, okay? After it, we'll move to third and final phase. Summon close to 20 cage bunchins and begin training, keep this pace, and if you manage to go to the next one, do it. While you're doing this, I'll visit one of my sources around these parts, said Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded, before seeing the pervert leave the premises. Turning once more to the empty clearing, Naruto made the necessary hand seal for the cage bunchin and used the equivalent chakra to summon his clones. However, instead of 20, Naruto chose to summon 40 clones, in order to attempt the Hari Jizu technique, while the others and the real one would attempt the Rasengan completion. The Hari Jizu wasn't that hard to master, since Naruto on the first try had pretty much covered the basics. The problem now would be to figure out how much chakra would be needed to cover the entire body with the technique. With Jiraiya after leaving the brat alone to his training, Jiraiya traveled a couple miles before reaching a house in the middle of nowhere. Clearly a simple two-story house in the middle of the forest would be considered like that. When Jiraiya knocked on the door, he heard what seemed to be a couple yelling to each other before a man opened the door and shouted angrily at whoever it was in order to vent out the frustration of marrying a bitch. Upon seeing the target of the man's frustrations, he realized the huge mistake he made and immediately apologized Jiraiya for the mishap. My excuses Jiraiya-sama, I didn't see it was you at the door. It's just that Sasama is behaving like a bitch these days and it is being tough to get some rest around here, said the man known as Kurama before seeing Jiraiya wave the man off as in dismissing the issue. No problems there Kurama-san, now I was wondering if you could give me information regarding this man. Said Jiraiya as he gave Kurama a picture of AC-ranked Konoha missing nin called Azato. Kurama, after seeing the picture recognized the man instantly and informed Jiraiya that he asked for shelter to the river country daimyo and the man gave him a house to stay not far from their location. Jiraiya appreciated the information and asked if Kurama could draw a map for him. Sure, I'll draw you a map, no problem. I'd ask, though, why are you after AC-ranked missing nin? Surely he wouldn't be of concern to a sannin such as yourself, asked Kurama, though Jiraiya smiled and simply said that he would like to have a small conversation with the man and be on his way. I'm not of a hunter Kurama, so I'll just leave the job for them, I'll just talk to him, in order to acquire some info that's all. Thanks for the map by the way, said Jiraiya to which Kurama nodded and then returned to the house where his wife started screaming for him to get a job instead of sleeping all the time. By this time however, Jiraiya was far away from the house as possible. He needed to check if the information was accurate before he came with Naruto to battle this guy. Little did the blonde know that Jiraiya wanted to test the boy's fighting skills against a number of opponents, so he acquired the latest copy of Konoha's bingo book and selected a few enemies he knew Naruto would be able to beat. At first, he wondered if the hunter nins would be angered with him for taking away their subsistence, but he dismissed it seeing that the book was thick enough to provide a good number of hunts for everybody. Upon arriving at the place indicated on the map, Jiraiya smiled upon finding the house and even the man he was looking for, returning from a forest nearby with wood on his arms for a fire, it seemed. Smiling once again, Jiraiya turned and returned to where Naruto was training in order to see how the blonde was faring with the Rasengan. With Naruto. After 2 hours of training, the clones dealing with the Hari Jizu technique were already dispelled since the technique was already mastered by Naruto. So now, the blonde was left with the Rasengan to master. The second phase of the technique went down fast as Naruto with his clones, needed close to 30 minutes to be able to do one-handedly. The third part though proved to be difficult as now, both Naruto and the clones needed to use the first and second phase altogether. Also, since Naruto was unable to do the technique, he was hard-pressed not to simply use a clone to aid him and the technique would be completed. However, he needed to concentrate and finish the technique today. His hands though, were already trembling from practicing for so long, so he stopped for a while and let the clones continue, since they didn't feel pain. The clones protested a little but returned to doing the Rasengan single-handedly. Minutes passed and the technique was slowly being formed only to dissipate seconds later. It was unnerving to say the least. Getting annoyed, Naruto dispelled the clones and immediately felt the rush of information inside his head. The technique was almost complete, so Naruto wouldn't need a bunch of clones to cut the time. Resting for a while, Naruto decided to rest a little bit from slight chakra usage and loss of stamina. This was the scene that Jiraiya came. The pervert was surprised to see Naruto resting a bit because of his excess chakra capacity, but he chose not to press it. After all, getting the blonde to calm down for a while was like a gift for the old sensei. Hello there Naruto, how's the training going? Asked Jiraiya, earning Naruto's attention. I managed the second phase all right, but the third is a whole different thing, said Naruto, though Jiraiya was certain the blonde wasn't telling the whole truth. Jiraiya wasn't one of sannin for nothing and he asked why Naruto didn't manage to finish the Rasengan, even though Jiraiya knew Naruto used more than 20 clones to master the Rasengan. Tell me Naruto, have you been working on something else beside the Rasengan? Asked Jiraiya seeing Naruto playing the innocent, before he made hand seals and said Ninpu Hari Jizu, ninja art, underworld guardian spikes jutsu. Jiraiya was astonished to see Naruto's hair growing, enveloping his body completely. He knew the blonde would work on more than one area at the same time because of the clone's assistance, but he never figured that Naruto would be able to master the Hari Jizu technique. Well, it seems you managed this technique already, so I'll teach you another using the hair, but on a later date. Now show me your Rasengan so far, said Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded and extended his arm. After focusing the necessary chakra, the ball began its formation before being completed for 2 seconds. Naruto cursed once more his inability to do the damn technique, but Jiraiya was too much lost in wonder to hear him complain. The technique execution was flawless and all it needed was to maintain the technique's rotation and strength instead of stopping after getting the ball done. Is it possible that this brat managed to truly learn the Rasengan in less than 6 months? Thought Jiraiya as he heard Naruto continued the complaint. Naruto, stop complaining and try maintaining the rotation and force of the technique instead of releasing once making it, instructed Jiraiya, to which Naruto cursed once more and attempted one more time. This time though, he did as instructed by Jiraiya only to see the technique completed right in front of his eyes. Both he and Jiraiya marveled to see the energy being contained within a small sphere. Congratulations Naruto, you managed the Rasengan single-handedly. Now it's time to learn how to expand the ball's size, to at least double of your current one. However, I believe we covered enough ground for today. So let's wait for tomorrow for more training. Now, remember when I said you would get to face different opponents? Asked Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded, before receiving the picture of the missing nin. Naruto, this is serious right now. I understand you're getting stronger and you have a good battle experience for a chunin. However, you still need to feel the pressure of fighting someone who could kill you if you're not careful enough. I know you sensed Momochi Zabuza's killing intent and I agree was quite threatening, however you didn't sense the full killing intent cause it wasn't directed towards you, but at Kakashi instead, explained Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto, who understood what the pervert wanted to say. A ninja is required to kill, and as such, he's also subjected to being killed by the one he was supposed to eliminate. Killing someone was a strange concept to Naruto, even though he remembered being seconds away from killing Haku at Wave Country if he wasn't able to control his urges. So you're suggesting that I kill this missing nin? Said Naruto, to which Jiraiya nodded with a serious expression. I wouldn't do this normally Naruto, however your first kill is going to be tough on you. Believe me. Ask any ninja in Konoha that has killed already and they will tell you how hard it was to overcome this phase. Nevertheless, while it's dangerous, it's necessary to overcome this for the future, said Jiraiya, to which Naruto let out a sigh in dismay before agreeing with the idea. So what do you know about this man's abilities? Asked Naruto, to which Jiraiya smiled and showed the man's page from the bingo book. The man called Azato is considered a C-ranked missing nin with skills equivalent to a chunin. He is a mid-level fighter with knowledge of Kaiden ninjutsu and proficiency in Taijutsu. His Kaiden ninjutsu was limited though, to a couple techniques, so according to the book, it wouldn't be life-threatening. He is located a few miles away from here, so we'll go there right now and face him. Are you ready? Asked Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto. I can't say I know what will be like once the battle starts, but I'm ready as I'll ever be. After all, it's either kill or be killed, right? Said Naruto, receiving a nod of confirmation from Jiraiya, who smiled and then asked Naruto to follow him. On the way, Naruto asked Jiraiya if he was supposed to fight more of these missing nins for his training before seeing Jiraiya nod in the negative. This will be the only one. The next ones will be people from other villages, since you'll have to face different enemies with different abilities in order to improve your abilities as shinobi. With enough battle experience, you'll be able to choose exactly what techniques to use and when to use them. Now, let's hurry before our guy disappears on us. Said Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded and followed the pervert towards the place where Naruto would have his fight. Near the missing nin's location. Hiding behind a tree, not at all bothering to hide their presences, since according to Jiraiya, they were testing the man's awareness of enemies. Naruto saw his target and frowned a bit. The man didn't look much, probably 20 years old, but his presence wasn't as strong as those he faced before, probably low chunin level, Naruto wondered. Jiraiya turned to him and observed Naruto for a while before smiling once again. The boy was learning faster than he thought. Naruto was analyzing the man, hoping to learn as much as possible from Azato. Naruto, I'll leave you against him. It will be you who will defeat him. I'll be close by in case you are in need of help, okay? Asked Jiraiya before seeing Naruto nodding at him. Okay, I'm ready to do this. Said Naruto as he began to approach the enemy while suppressing his chakra. Naruto wasn't stupid to hope that he would be able to sneak behind the enemy and simply slit his throat with a kunai, however he hoped, at least, to cover as much ground as possible in order to have the upper hand in battle. After a while, when Naruto entered the open field, he took out a kunai from his holster and only waited for an attack from Azato, which soon came as the man flipped his body fast and threw a couple of shurikens towards Naruto. Using the kunai, Naruto managed to block them all and jump in order to be in front of Azato, before addressing the man. Azato, from your crimes against Konoha, and as a shinobi from the village, I'll be the one to kill you, prepare yourself, said Naruto before taking his stance of fighting. Azato for his part, began to snicker in total underestimation at the blonde's abilities. Get serious kid, what are you a genin? I thought Konoha would send hunter nins against me, not a little genin. I guess they underestimate me. Stated Azato earning a snarl from Naruto who didn't like being underestimated like that. Underestimating the enemy isn't a nice thing to do, you could be caught by surprise but I'm afraid that is only one way of knowing this isn't it. Asked Naruto earning a nod from Azato, who at least would like the warm-up of beating a genin. From out of nowhere, Azato charged against Naruto with a powerful punch but Naruto managed to evade and twisted his body and landed a straight reverse kick on Azato's chest. The man was taken aback by the sudden increase of speed and even passed his hand on the wounded area, surprised that it was hurting like hell. Looking at the blonde, the man snarled in anger. How dare this boy, Azato thought. He decided to not hold back anymore. Molding some chakra, Azato began some hand seals before whispering Kaden Gukaku no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball jutsu. Suddenly, the fireball erupted from Azato's mouth and charged towards Naruto. The blonde for his part, smirked at the insignificant size of the fireball. Both Sasuke's and Jiraya's fireball were at least 3 and 4 times bigger respectively and he managed to dodge it. Charging some chakra on his feet, Naruto used it to dash to the right and charged against the man with a straight chakra-powered punch to the man's jaw, before hitting straight on. Because of the power behind the punch, Azato was sent flying. Naruto however, didn't stop his attack as he made hand seals for Gyorai Shin no Jutsu Torpedo Needles Jutsu. Instantly, chakra needle began its formation around Naruto's body, until he shot them straight at Azato who was still in midair. The needles hit the target and immediately, Azato's body was pierced multiple times. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere and the man fell down on his knees, since some of those needles happened to pierce the leg's muscles. Azato looked at the blonde now with blood in his eyes. This technique was strange, he thought. Azato wasn't familiar with the concept of chakra manipulation, since he was still Chunin when he left Konoha, however he knew a normal genin would know how to use chakra like the blonde used. Looking at the blonde one more time, Azato found that he was now feeling fear. He knew someone would come eventually and that he would have to face whoever it was but he was in no way prepared to die. As the blonde approached him, Azato could see the boy's eyes as not familiarized to the world of killing. His pure cerulean eyes did well to show Azato of Naruto's innocence regarding the true way of the ninja. Naruto for his part, wondered what he would do right now. Clearly, the man was incapacitated since his needles managed to pierce his leg's muscles so his movements were nullified. However, the thought of simply grabbing his kunai and cutting the man's jugular sickened the blonde to no end. The blonde wondered if by killing others, he would be compared to the one living inside of him. If I can't do this, what will happen if I'm unable to deal properly with those who pose a threat to Konoha, thought Naruto as he picked his kunai once more. Without thinking, Naruto did pretend that he was pulling off a band-aid. He positioned the kunai on the guy's neck and without wondering any more about what may happen from now on, Naruto did killed for the first time. He just killed a man who was already beaten. Instantly, Naruto's eyes were lifeless as he looked at Azato's dead body while knowing it was him who killed the man. Jiraya was already there by his side and wondered what the blonde must be thinking right now. The fight was quite one-sided and if Naruto used the Rasengan, the fight would be over before it started. However, the whole point of fighting missing nins was learning the harsh reality of killing like a ninja and Naruto would just have to face this issue and surpass it with time. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.